today's video. So today we're taking a look at the Fender Hammertone OVERDRIVE pedal, and I'm going to do something a little bit different with this one today actually, in that I'm going to quickly take us through the controls and outline the parameter of each control. But then once we know what the pedal does, I'm going to open up the mix window for the intro performance that we've just seen. And we're going to hear a bunch of different, well, all the different guitar parts in that track actually. Kind of a mix breakdown, but more just to show how I had the pedals set for each guitar, why I set it the way I did for different guitars, different pickups, different parts, that kind of thing. But jumping straight in, we can see it's another top loading pedal like the rest in the series, same footprint, same switch down at the bottom there. So we've got input, output, power all up top. And then in terms of controls on this one, we've got our tone, level, pre-mid boost and gain. So the clean tone, just before I kick the pedal on, is the Victory V40 into the Captor X. And this is the same clean tone that I had for all the guitars on that intro performance. I haven't touched the amp since or throughout. The only thing that was changing was the guitar and how I had the pedal set. So just for reference, our clean tone is... So the first thing I'm going to do is turn the tone all the way up. And the reason for this, the best description I've seen of this tone control, Andy on the Guitar Geek channel likened this to the tone pot on your guitar. So when it's all the way up, you're getting your kind of unfiltered sound with all your top end present, and then as you roll that back, we're going to take some of the top end presence out there. That's on full. You can see acting like the tone part of the guitar. I am going to go quickly through these because I do want to get to the mix breakdown without making this a really long video, but I will demonstrate where I would use that set at different points throughout the mix breakdown. There is actually an internal trim pot in here as well, which can roll off even more top end if you're going for a really kind of lo-fi tone. I've got this set all the way up at the minute, so acting like without any filtering basically when the tone's all the way up. Next up we've got level. This obviously controls the output of the pedal, it actually goes past unity gain. I would say unity on this, I'll just turn it off again. Unity is probably, I would say, between 6 or 7, which means we've got scope to kind of use it as a boost if we take it beyond that. Which I think this pedal does well. This guitar likes boost pedals as well, which is why I'm using it for this portion of the video. And it's also the way I used it for the solo I did on this guitar. I'm going to keep that, I'll put it to about 8 or, I'm reading this upside down, we're on 7 at the minute. And we'll go over to gain next. So this is obviously how much drive we're getting from the pedal. We've got it on 5 at the minute. If I back it all the way down, we can get some nice low gain tones. Increase that. So quite a range of gain there. Obviously it's not going to do the super saturated metal thing. There is a metal pedal in this line for doing that, but it can put enough gain on a fairly clean amp like we are doing now to get those kind of hard rock tones, or if you're using a driven amp you could push it into more saturated territory. Then last up we've got our pre-mid boost. So this is essentially controlling how much the front end presence of the mids is accentuated. Which again is really useful if you're playing in an ensemble, hence the wanting to do the mix breakdown on this video. We'll see a number of different uses for this particular control in that portion of the video. I've got it set to 5 at the minute, but I like this all the way off actually. I feel like it sounds quite open in that setting. I'll just back the gain down as well while I demonstrate this. And as I bring that in, you hear a stronger mid presence. Which at that extreme amount, with all of it in, sounds a little bit boxy, but again, tones that are in a mix versus tones that are in isolation often aren't always coherent, so something that sounds good in a mix might not sound so good outside of a mix and vice versa. But now we know what all the controls do, we'll jump into the Logic session and I'll take us through how I would use this pedal in a recording capacity. So I've got my mix session opened up in Logic now, and just a couple of things to mention just before we get started. Obviously this track was written to demo the drive pedal, the Hammertone drive pedal, So with that in mind, I am going to go through different aspects of the mix, but rather than be a complete mix breakdown, I'm more going to focus in on how I had the pedals set for each guitar and each guitar part. If a full mix breakdown video was something people are interested in seeing on the channel though, do let me know in the comment section, because it's something I'm more than happy to look into putting together. In terms of kind of plugins and post-processing I've used on this, I have tried to use as little as possible. I've not used anything that I felt fundamentally changed the tone of the pedal. There are a few instances where I've done very small EQ moves just to stop things, essentially stop it being a bad mix, because that really would be a disservice to the pedal to showcase it in a bad mix, and would also defeat the object of this video, which was designed to show how I would use the pedal in a kind of professional recording capacity. So with all that said, first thing I'm going to do is turn off the compressor and the graphic EQ that I've got going in the mix bus. I should say I've also just used Logic stock plugins for this mix to keep things as accessible as possible. Typically I would use some more plugins in here, some saturation and limiting in the mix bus, but I felt like they were changing the tone of the pedal too much, so I just stuck with the compressor and the EQ, really just to glue things together and then put a little bit of shine on the cymbals. So looking at the individual tracks then, we can see I've got my MIDI drums up here. For anyone who's interested, actually these are the GGD One Kit Wonder Modern Fusion. I really like this kit. I like the snare, and you've got a nice choice of cymbals on there, and to be honest, that's a kit that is in 99% of my recent YouTube videos. Bass is the Schecter CV4 going into the Audience Sono, and that's then going into the Mesa Boogie 4x10 cab IR that I've got housed in there. And then all of the guitars were tracked on the Victory V40 Duchess into the Captor X. And I didn't actually touch the amp settings. The only thing I changed obviously was the guitars and how I had the pedal set for each part. So taking us through each part then, we've got the Esquire intro that had the kind of low gain drive chords. We had the Tele harmonics with the behind the nut bends. This actually says Tele solo, although I did play it on the Esquire, although arguably they probably sound very similar when sat in a mix. PRS solo, basically there, so we've got a single coil solo and a humbucker solo. Got a humbucker rhythm track down the center, and then I've got two hard panned left and right rhythm tracks, and these are P90 tracks, and then these two reverse swirls down here, which were duplicates of the Ambler left and right, so they're P90s on the same pedal settings as well. So if we start back at the Esquire, this was really designed to be a kind of low gain chord drive tone. So we had, the gain was on 3 for this one, level was on 5, I had the pre-mid boost on 2, and the tone on 10. I wanted to keep the pre-mid low so that when the harmonics came in they would play nicely together. So if I solo this out in the mix, we'll hear it with the delay and reverb first, and then I'll bypass that in just a second. And then without the wet effects. And then moving on from that, at bar 5 we can see the Tele harmonics came in, and really the goal with the Tele harmonics was to go for something almost more synth-like, more of a textural part than a specific lead part. I was actually trying to emulate how you would use the modulation wheel on a synth with the behind the nut bends, and really I was going for a tone that was had a lot of sustain to it, not a lot of attack, so I had the tone rolled to 9 on the pedal, just taking off just that top end transient. The pre-mid I had all the way up there to give me that sustain, level was on 7 and gain was on 9, almost maxed out again to just almost kind of emulate some compression going on there, and I had a stereo delay going left and right, even fed on that one there. So with the delay, that's what this sounds like. And then if I turn the delay off, so you can hear a lot of kind of saturation and a lot of sustain in that part there. So moving on from that one, we've got the Tele solo that we said was the Esquire, and this was quite a low gain solo really, probably less gain than it sounds like when it's isolated out in the mix. I have got a tiny bit of EQ going on here. Basically I've shelved below 85 Hertz. It's fairly standard practice when you have guitars in a mix like this to shelve below 100, because really it's just low rumble, but when you've got as many guitar tracks as we have here, 10 lots of low rumble amounts to quite an annoying amount of audible low rumble really, and I've just ducked a tiny bit of 1K out just because it was clipping the mix bus when everything kind of hit at this intro portion here. But I'm going to bypass the EQ now. I'll leave the tape delay on so we can hear it to begin with, and then I'll take that off in just a second. And then without the delay on. So really I had a lot of open strings going on in that solo, so I don't want too much drive and too much saturation that would cloud things up. Really I was actually trying to use the pedal more as a boost, so I had the level maxed out on this all the way up at 10. The gain was on 4.5, pre-mid was on 4, and the tone was on 10 again, just to give us all that top end to cut through the other guitars that were going on here. Next up, got the PRS solo. I should say as well, obviously being an Esquire, that was on the bridge pickup. This was also a bridge pickup tone. I find that the more guitars you have going on at once, the more I tend to use the bridge pickup just to make sure everything has its own space and doesn't kind of sound too muddy. If I've got a solo guitar part, that's when I'll tend to use more neck pickup tones. But if we take a listen to this PRS solo in isolation, again with delay, and then I'll knock it off in a second. That actually sounds more Iron Maiden than I thought it might do, that last band there. But if we hear that without the tape delay now. So this was, I guess, more of our typical 80s guitar tone. I had the tone all the way up again. Gain was all the way maxed out for this one. I had the level on 7 and the pre-mid on 4, so that's more of our kind of traditional rock lead tone, that one. And then underneath that we've got our rhythm tracks. So this the PRS rhythm track, that's down the center, and as you can see this is way down in the mix. To be honest, I probably could have got away with not actually including this, but for the sake of the demo I wanted to include a tone that was like a humbucker rhythm tone. But really it's kind of designed to work in conjunction with these two P90 double tracks. As you can see, again, I've got the same EQ moves on all three of these rhythm tracks. I've just taken the low end out and just taken a bit of the mids out, again just to avoid too much kind of clouding up. When you've got how many with the bass included, when you've got 6 guitar tracks on the go, things can get a little bit muddy, so I've just ducked out a tiny bit there, but again I'll bypass this just so we can hear it. I'm also just going to bring the fader up a little bit, just because it is set so quiet in the mix, this one. So this is our PRS central rhythm track. And really again this was almost more of a kind of a distorted synth part. That was on -23 before, but that's close enough. So the tone for this one I had all the way back down to 3.5, and this is what I meant at the start of the video when I said whilst at first it seems a bit strange to have a tone that would take so much top end off, in a mix those kind of tones can be helpful to be able to shelve so much, because it means I didn't have to do any of that in the EQ section, and it kept it out of the way of the lead guitar. Pre-mid was all the way on 10, level on 8, and gain on 10 as well. So as I say, almost like a distorted synth patch, that one, and that was designed to work in conjunction with these two rhythm tracks, these two P90s. I'm going to play one of these by themselves first, and then I'll double track them. I've bypassed the EQ, but again it was just the exact same move as was on the PRS rhythm a second ago. So this is our left hand side P90 rhythm. You can hear it's actually almost going into a kind of harmonic feedback there. These were designed to be my more crunchy kind of rhythm guitars, and more kind of stereotypical rock guitar part, I guess, or tone I should say. So the way I had this set, tone was on 7.5, so just taking off a little bit of top end again just to make sure those solos really have room to breathe in the upper frequencies. Pre-mid was on 7, level on 8.5, so boosting it a bit again, and the gain was on 7. And I find P90s work well for this actually, particularly if you've got single coils in the lead and then P90s, you can double track it with a humbucker to thicken it up, or vice versa. If you've got humbucker in the lead, you can double track it with a single coil and you get a nice kind of spread of frequency dispersion then, I guess. So as I say, these are double tracked, exact same guitar, exact same settings left and right. And then if I put that PRS rhythm in, so as we can hear, the PRS rhythm there, it's kind of just helping do a little bit of almost like a wall of guitars type thing. As I say, I probably could have omitted it from this mix, but I did want to showcase what driven humbuckers sounded like through the pedal. The reverse swells, as I say, are just channel duplicates of the Ambler rhythm left and right. So again, hard pan left and right, exact same EQ moves. I put a little bit of reverb on, more because this is less of a guitar part and more of a, I don't know, effects part really. So if I solo these, just to show what they sound like. Just to give us a bit of a rise into that solo section. For anyone who's not seen this before, basically you just hit a power chord, pan it left and right, put some reverb on, reverse it, and then do a volume ramp. So if I show you the automation in a second, you can see it's rising there. And then I was cutting it off quickly to avoid too much of a reverb tail to build up in this first bar of the solo. But inside the mix, that gives this kind of effect. And that was pretty much everything I had going on in this mix session. I've tried to be as transparent as possible about where EQs are moved and things like that, and really kind of show the honest tone of the pedal. I did actually debate not using any of the EQs, but then all that really equates to is a bad mix, and the whole purpose of this video was to show how I would use this pedal in a professional recording capacity, and a bad mix wouldn't be very professional. So I felt it would be a bit of a disservice to the pedal to not use anything, but I have really tried to be as subtle as I can and really let the pedal do as much heavy lifting as possible, which hopefully this video has shown. So that's the Fender Hammertone Overdrive. As ever, if you've got any questions, do let me know in the comment section, and if you'd like to see more of the mix breakdown or videos of that type on the channel, do let me know, because it's something I'm more than happy to look into doing. They're fun videos to make, but as ever, thank you very much for watching the video. If you did enjoy it, please do like and subscribe if you're not already. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.